я щойно побачила, як летить ракета. І я почула це.
Welcome back to Ukraine SitRep. I'm here with my co-host Pete Blaber, and a lot happening in the last few days, the last few hours, last few minutes, actually. Pete, thanks for joining me today out of your busy schedule.
Great to be here, Todd.
So I've got 3 videos that you sent and some slides, but let's talk Charlie Kirk for a minute. And we were talking beforehand. A lot of information coming out now that this was pre-planned. If you look at the video. There was a lot of people. There was a question asked right before he was shot about transgender shooters, and then the whole crowd said he's going to die now. And they look around and they kind of point at the guy on the roof, and then the guy shoots him. And then there was a book published the day before called "The Shooting of Charlie Kirk" on Amazon. So this looks pre-planned. I know you haven't heard anything about that, but what are your thoughts on the whole shooting?
Wow. I mean, my raw reaction was just how despicable it was.
Yeah.
But of course, bringing it back to Charlie Kirk, first, it's important to just stay focused on what he stood for, which was freedom of speech at a time when it was being taken away. Remember, he earned his chops most of the time we know of Charlie Kirk was under the Biden administration. He went through all the same things that other, freedom supporters went through during that time, but he stayed true to his principles. And, if you haven't, to our viewers, if they haven't watched one of his campus debates lately, I highly recommend just go on. There's 100 of them on YouTube or on Rumble, and just watch. They're incredible to watch because he's exemplifying, what really freedom-loving people believe in, and why it's such a stark contrast to those who want to take it away.
Yeah, sure.
Charlie Kirk believed in debate, not destruction. He spoke with logic and respect, not emotion and ridicule like we hear all the time. He backed his arguments with faith, love of country, but most of all with common sense. And he modeled what peaceful, respectful disagreement. And that's why it's important to watch them. He's very calm. He never gets emotional, never calls anyone a name. There's laughing in all the debates. He's good-natured about it. And in doing those debates, he exposed this massive population of people who want to take our freedoms away. And, it's not just in America. It's the globalist link. We see it in the EU, obviously, now, and those who want to keep the Ukraine war going. Yeah. Those who believe in intolerance and hatred and emotional outbursts and violence. And I'd go back to something else about that debate, because there's so many parallels to what we talk about, the debate, the Ukraine war debate. If you watch those, he always trounces his challengers. He's a very intelligent guy.
Yeah, but quick thinking, fast mind.
Yeah, very quick thinking, very fact-based. But there's nothing magic about it. It's the same way when people talk about Trump and say he uses, 4D chess or whatever. It's not 4D chess, and there's no secret weapon of Charlie Kirk. It's just logic and common sense. And when you stand
and
by
knowledge, like knowledge of history. I heard him talking about, the Declaration of Independence and how the state constitutions had certain things in them that people weren't aware of. And that's real, like, and not intelligence. It's just hard work and learning, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's facts, and that's why freedom, it's always about freedom, and common sense always win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he always wins his debates. So at the same time, the violent part, we're already hearing rumblings about the shooter, but we'll wait and see, what the FBI and the Utah police come up with. But we know, this is another, senseless killing in a long line of senseless killings. And we know they're not just emerging out of nowhere. These have been incited by these Democratic politicians and their globalist mainstream media allies, who just continue to call for violence and destruction and, show their lack of civility when someone dies, like Charlie Kirk. And so, the legacy of Charlie Kirk is that freedom matters. And what we all have to take away from it is do what Charlie Kirk did, dead at 31 years old, but he stood up for freedom.
Sure.
And stood his ground for it at every turn. And by pledging ourselves to that, we also pledge ourselves to never allow these extremists to take our freedom away. And we won't stand by while they continue to wage war against us. So it's kind of a wake-up call to the sleeping giant of peaceful, freedom-loving people across the planet.
Completely agree. I think there'll be more coming out on this, obviously, in the next short run. They allegedly have some person of interest. Looks like a young college kid. But, just like with the Crooks assassination, who knows who's really behind all this. I think all these school shootings, I think all of this is related somehow. And we'll maybe know one day how, but I think it's pretty dark. So we had an incident yesterday with Russia allegedly flying 20 drones into Poland. That might not be the real story. Am I correct?
You're correct. And, I've looked at this from all angles, the Ukrainian side, the Russian side, talked to two individuals on the ground. And of course, like so many things, so many propaganda generated situations and events, this one makes no sense. Anyone who tries to solve a crime always does it the same way. You start with motive. Who had the motive to commit this crime, whatever the crime is? And so you look at this and you say, what would the motive be for Russia to fly 19 non-armed drones into Poland? And then the facts begin to implode on themselves. There is tracks, air ATC tracks showing the route of these of all the drones that were up that night, and the launch spot, the closest launch spot to the border with Poland was 900 kilometers away, and these type of drones have a max range of 700 kilometers, so they couldn't even have made it that far. These are older drones. They're they're available in the black market in Ukraine by the hundreds because they're not used anymore. And I think we even have some aggregated polls, meta-analysis of Polish reactions to this. Yeah, most polls believe Ukraine was responsible for the Russian drone raid. And same thing. The Poles have this yin and yang leadership now. They have a prime minister who's completely
Tusk is on the wrong side for sure.
Right. And he was the first guy up calling for, this is why we need NATO troops. This is an act of war. They couldn't have said false flag any louder. And given the track record of all the fake propaganda events that have been created by Ukraine and its Western puppet masters, the MI6 and the CIA, it shouldn't surprise anyone. This is one more in line with it. The
Yeah.
Bucha massacres being, one we've already covered multiple times. But that's what they're doing here, and it's not to be believed. There's no evidence, and there is no motive for why they would fly these unarmed, old-fashioned drones into Polish territory. And,
Well, I put this out yesterday or the day before. I can't remember. I was in Poland saying the same thing, that Tusk is going to take down the government back in 23. But it reminded me of, I was looking at what's that?
You just passed the route. It shows the routes of the drones and the missiles. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is on the left side is the Polish border. But I was just looking at all this response, and it was hyperbolic. It was like, it's an attack. We have to, start Article 4 consultations. We have to defend ourselves. And it reminded me of I posted this at the bottom. Remember that song 99 Red Balloons?
Yeah, of course.
This is it, boys. This is war. I mean, that's what it reminded me of. It was just hyperbolic, and it was all planned, right? All these people came out and said, Russia, Russia, Russia. So you're exactly right. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. The fact that they're still promulgating these propaganda lies, these bold-faced lies, that's what the connection back to the Charlie Kirk killing is to me. That if what Charlie Kirk was doing, if that could be exported globally, in other words, if on all these issues, and let's include the Israel Hamas thing, but let's stay focused on the Ukraine war right now. If the questions around the Ukraine war could be settled by just open, logic-based debate, it would be a slam dunk. The Russian side would win, hands down, because there is no logic behind fighting this or saying that Russia attacked unprovoked. It doesn't stand ground. The overthrow of 2014 by the U.S. and the EU is what caused this, and then the neo-Nazi slaughter of ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine is what started the war and provoked Russia. And you can't change that. And yet they want, that's what propagandists do. They cover up history, as we've talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
They rewrite history, they bury history, and then they just get louder and louder with their lies. And they think that's going to work, and it's not going to work. And that's why, again, Charlie Kirk is a wake-up call across the world. But for here in Ukraine, just imagine that. If there was just some method of debate to talk about, what we see, the fact-based patterns, and, let's just go over them. Forced conscription, killing people to get them to join the military, over 1 million dead and an equal and greater number wounded. Mass desertions, 250,000 to 500,000. 70% of the population want peace. No freedom to elect, no freedom of religion, no freedom of speech. All the media outlets in Ukraine are controlled by the government.
They're eating their dog food, and the family sits down and gets lasagna, and they're like, what is that? And they have this sense actually, maybe what I'm eating is shit. Maybe they're getting the good stuff, but you don't really know. And that's why we don't feed dogs to the table, because the second you do, they're done. They're like, really? Beef eyes? I don't think so. I'm not eating that shit anymore, because they know better. And that's what Zin is. The second you have it, you're like, what? Are you serious? I put that shit in my mouth. And you're mad, obviously, at the people who did it to you, but also at yourself for settling for that, for settling.
Because we're not actually dogs.
No, we're not dogs. And why would I be eating beef anus when I can eat?
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Government, no military industrial complex, and no economy. And so, if there was an open debate about supporting the continuation of the war, it would be a slam dunk, but there's no open debate.
Yeah.
And again, that's why they hated Charlie Kirk. That's why they hate shows like yours, the free, open exchange of ideas globally, where you can bring on someone from Russia or Ukraine or anywhere else to talk. That's what they hate. Freedom, who are against freedom. That's who we're up against, and this is why it all ties together. And this is why it's so disgusting what's going on over there, because they just keep lying and making things up that no one would believe if there was a little bit of factual debate around it. But there's no factual debate around it. It's just globalist mainstream media spouting propaganda and lies and continuing those propaganda and lies until people start accepting them.
Totally agree. So I have a video of Charlie Kirk in Ukraine. Do you want me to play that?
Yeah, because his view, I think, is spot on, and we may find out this is part of what led to his demise too. So yeah, please go ahead and play it.
To ask the very simple question: who benefits from peace, and who benefits from war? Well, who benefits from peace? Well, the people of Ukraine benefit from peace. The people of America benefit from peace. Humanity benefits from peace. But then who benefits from war? The military-industrial complex, oligarchs of the ruling class of Ukraine. And maybe we should reopen diplomatic channels with the Russian Federation. It's tempting to just say, well, Russia is a great enemy of the United States. We've made them an enemy. Instead, we should try to drive a wedge between Russian and Chinese Communist Party marriages. The Russian-Ukrainian war, largely unnecessary. There was a peace deal on the table. Russia became our enemy because it was an ideological foe. That regime fell, and there is no reason to keep them our enemy. When the Soviet Union collapsed, it took a lot of very contortionist arguments to keep Russia as an enemy of the United States.
Fascinating.
Yeah, spot on. Logic based, and I always want to throw an asterisk when people say military-industrial complex. It requires an asterisk, an updated asterisk. That the military-industrial complex includes NGOs, non-government organizations like the ones we've been talking about this whole time that are operating, running the war in Ukraine, full of family members of globalists in the U.S. and in the EU.
Just harvesting money out of it.
Exactly. We talk about Kellogg and his massive conflict of interest. But Pelosi has a relative over there. John Kerry has a relative over there. It's disgusting. But these NGOs are the new face of the military-industrial complex, and on top of them are these globalist investors, the BlackRocks, the Vanguards, who also invest. So
big money.
And so Charlie Kirk just summed it up, and it drives home the point again that why logic and freedom of speech are so important. The globalists can't defeat logic. There's no logic of why to keep this war going, and there's no logic of why for it to have ever started. There's only lies, and there's only despicable decisions made by globalists themselves, both in the U.S. and in the EU, who could care less about the people of this planet, the people of their country. They care about themselves, they care about power, and they care about control. And that's it. And again, Charlie Kirk's view, great summary, say it's what everyone should understand, and we should have normalization with Russia. That's why this current period is such a head scratcher. We still have administration people talking about tariffs on India and China and potentially on Russia. And, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. On President Trump, he's doing an incredible job on economy, crime, and everything else. But he's got to, whether it's just a negotiation tactic, I don't know. But he's got to put a lid on these people and just tell them enough is enough.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Because there's no peace, why would we punish Russia without punishing Ukraine? Ukraine's not doing anything to get to the table. In fact, they're the biggest obstacle because Zelensky keeps digging his feet in and saying, we're not doing this. It's not happening.
With the Europeans behind him. Let me just throw this up by the foreign ministry spokesman, Zakharova, in Russia. There's no evidence of an alleged attack by Russian drones near Poland. I think that's pretty much been established in different media outlets. And then you have this congressman, screaming that he wants to, ramp up sanctions and go to war with Russia. So there you go.
Yeah, and it just real quick on that, this is one of the main tactics of the left. They just make up a lie, publish it, and then anyone can pivot off and quote that lie. And here he is after the attack on Poland. I mean, it's not funny. 19 drones, apparently, we've seen like 3 of them. No explosives, no warhead on any of them. Old, outdated drones, very questionable. There's no reason for them to fly in there. But after the attack on Poland, he wants to go full scorched earth against Russia. Again, Lindsey Graham, they must have told him to sit down and let his other colleagues fight the fight, because he's so hard to listen to and has no credibility. But this guy, same thing, and it's again what we're seeing worldwide, just this lying, this vitriol, this negative vitriol, calling for violence and destruction. But it's not going to work. And if nothing else, the Charlie Kirk incident can be a real wake-up call and a real defining moment for freedom-loving people across the planet. And guys like this just make it even more worthwhile.
Completely agree. This is one other post on Tusk claiming drones presented a danger, more of the freak out from Europe. And then we have this, which is Ukraine announces urgent mobilization. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's just, to my numbers of desertions, between 250,000 and 500,000 deaths, but they are losing hundreds of square kilometers a week right now. And Ukraine's losing thousands of men. And this is just another act of desperation to call them up. We talked last show, in the age group of the draft eligible age group of 25 to 60. There were only 7 million men total in Ukraine in 2019 down, but you subtract the deaths, the desertions, and people who just can't serve, and they're running out of people. It doesn't take a math major to figure that out, but this just shows they don't have those people.
Well, I would ask, how are they going to find 122,000 people? I mean, they can say they're going to mobilize them, but that's different than actually mobilizing. They're snatching kids off the street now. So how do you find those kind of numbers? I mean, that's what I don't get, unless they're.
We always show I think you have one more video of one of the captured prisoners, but we show that because it talks about, this endless cycle of just grabbing usually old, beat up dudes off the street, sending them right to the front lines, either getting killed or, giving up because they can't fight. They don't know what they're doing. And the worst thing of all is they get no guidance from their command. The command is MIA. It's a disconnected chain of command model that was, imported by the U.S. into Ukraine. They already had a faulted model, an old Soviet overly autocratic model. So, the command and control model in Ukraine is one of the biggest killers on the battlefield, and this video just shows it once again.
Here we go.
But it also shows the attrition.
Много бежало тому. Ну, это бежали, когда мы нас только привозили, там, на второй день, первую ночь бежали. Там привозили ночью. Все передвижение ночью привозили, а потом на утро уже узнали, что кто-то там на дереве повесился. Ну, за время обучения вроде было там что-то 150 с чем-то человек, то вроде, как я слышал, назад приехали 84 или 86 человек. Ну, почти половина, наверное. Сбежали. У нас вообще такая эта бригада, это поналавливали, ну, это не вояки, не вояки. Это все больные, непригодные люди, если реально взять. Были на позиции, начал работать миномет очень сильно, спрятались в окопе, нас начали забрасывать прямо в окоп гранатами. Потом услышали, что предлагают сдаться, дали на размышления, там, я не помню, 10 минут, время дали, что перекурили, стали оружие, один вынес автоматы, вышли по одному, сдались. То есть, отнеслись нормально. Привет, ма, все нормально, я живой. Слава Богу, не переживай, бо я знаю, что ты переживаешь, у тебя здоровье не то, что переживать. Как все нормально.
So he's just saying goodbye to his mother. But yeah, pretty obvious they're not bringing their best or whatever. They're bringing whatever's left.
Yeah, and so if just any objective observer was looking at this from the outside for the first time, they'd go, these guys can't win. They have no possible way of winning, and all of these testimonials show a bigger underlying problem, and that's the problem of purpose. They have not communicated. There is no purpose for Ukraine to keep fighting. It's not been communicated. There's no common sense of shared purpose among the Ukrainians. There's only propaganda. There's no support for Zelensky. And yet we have people like that congressman and all these political pundits and all these retired GOs keep saying, fight on.
Fight to the last Ukrainian.
Yep. And so again, tying it right back to Charlie Kirk, we can pay tribute to him for his legacy by remembering what he did, what he exemplified, open debate, common sense and logic. And if we had that worldwide, if there was a system that could force that on all these issues, we would not have these problems, because if you follow logic, there's nothing but logic about ending the war in Ukraine and nothing but illogic about keeping it going.
You may not have seen this. It's a video of some training of Ukrainian troops. These are guys they pull off the streets. They give them 3 days of this and they put them on the front. And I know that we do some of this. I mean, I did it in basic even when I was at the academy, but it's these guys aren't in uniform. It looks pretty like haphazard. And then they give them a little of this and they send them to the front. So I'm going to play this. So that doesn't look like training. It looks like just almost abuse. I don't know what they're training for there. But what are your thoughts as an infantry guy?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's totally abusive, totally counterproductive. They're new troops. As we've talked about, there's already a problem with explaining the logic of why it makes sense to be part of the Ukrainian military. And so that should be their number one objective. When these guys come in, they should sit them down and say, guys, here's why we need you. You're the most important, element to the future of this country. everything depends on you. They should be building them up. But you see a bunch of fat punk-like dudes, laughing, shooting their guns off. Whether those are real bullets or blanks, I don't know. But it's just one more indicator of the sad state of affairs, the dysfunctional state of affairs in Ukraine, and it's why we need to stop that war as soon as possible, and do the right thing, and that includes normalization of relationships with Russia.
So I've got one more video, and I'm not sure it's these are guys trying to avoid drones. Is that correct? This
good, adaptive. It shows the innovation on the front. These are guys wearing thermal cloaks.
Mm-hmm.
So they cloak the heat signature your body gives off, which is at nighttime. All cameras are thermal that are looking for humans on the battlefield. So it's just a development. It's kind of a cool application of it to see it on the drone footage. That's the thermal cape. And then this is a view of guys with thermal capes. You can see the movement, but if they held still, you can't spot them.
Yeah,
from
interesting.
drone.
Interesting.
That guy's got the hat or the hood off. So yeah, it's just another battlefield development by the Russians, and we've talked about it quite a bit. It's a light infantry war. It's a small unit light infantry war, and this is what's happening on the front. They know that large portions of the front are facades. The Russians are not manned because the Ukrainians don't have enough people. So they do everything in these small units, 2 to 4 guys, creep up, probe the lines, find the weaknesses. They've got overhead ISR support from drones. And then once they find an open spot, they get back on the radio, exploit it, bring more guys in and blow it open, and then repeat over and over. And that's how they're taking so much ground and driving the Ukrainians back.
Well, Pete, that's a lot. Anything else you got today?
No, I'm good, Todd. Great talking to you.
Yeah, great. We'll be back next week on Ukraine SitRep. Thanks for watching. Take care.